The opportunity came up really for a large development because of the site. We relocated the old nursery to a new site on the gardens site, on the gardens area, and that allowed us an aspect that was really very appropriate for doing something like another new development. And so we had a lot of discussion about what that would be, and in the end decided that a representation of part of arid Australia was really warranted by these gardens. Since we had many other ecosystems represented, we didn't have this one at all.
What we've done in the Red Centre garden is we've put it in a spot we've got the very best solar access. So we're getting, we're making it as warm as we possibly can using natural light, using aspect. And what we've done in the garden is created contours, depressions, hills, we've put rocks in place. All these things change the climate around the plants. And then we design the plants for use in those areas.
I had never been to Central Australia before, so I travelled to Central Australia to have a good look at the landscape and get some inspirations. To really be there and see it and feel the dirt and feel the heat coming off the soil, it's really, I think, important to experience that sense of country if you're going to come back and you're going to try and implement that into so many interesting elements in such a small area without making it look enclosed as well. I mean, a sense of space is something that we had to retain here because that's something that you get when you go to Central Australia.
The Australian National Botanic Gardens is, as I said, one big experiment for Australian flora. It's a well-considered experiment, but an experiment nonetheless. And for us to make pioneering new discoveries, particularly about a landscape like this that we haven't tried before, that's exactly what we have to do, is consider how we put those plants together and learn from the successes and failures of the landscape that we have here. So what that means is what we think will work, we have a fairly good idea of, but what will actually work, we'll have to fine-tune how we maintain the landscape, how we regrow or replace plants within this landscape.
One of the things that's been really good about the project is that it's enabled the staff and all of the staff to be involved with the project. So, and you don't very often have such a major development happening in the time that you're at a garden like this. Most of the development has been done by us, not by contractors, except for helping with some of the putting the rocks in place. That sort of thing has been a bit of contract work, but not everything else. All the decisions and things have been taken by the staff. Most of the time fairly agreeable. Now and then we might have had some disagreements on what might happen, but they've been ironed out and developed together.
One of the great parts of this project was bringing the materials together to reflect the landscape, and then the icing on the cake is the plants that come into that landscape. It's really critical that we got the materials right here to capture that sense of landscape. The Red Centre is so strongly memorable for its landscape features as well as the plants. So this is a classic case of the materials representing the landscape features and then the plants being the icing on the cake.
It was always going to be a challenge, and so I say yes, it has been a learning curve for me. I've propagated a lot of them before, but never to the same numbers, never to having a specific flowering event, and that presents a real challenge. There are a lot of plants from the Red Centre that if you don't get the right propagation material, i.e. fresh seed or fresh cuttings, it can be very, very difficult to do. And so we've worked hard at getting that material, but there are some times you just can't do it. We always thought that the Red Centre garden was fraught with problems, and one of the things is that the plants require rest periods, just like deciduous plants require rest periods. They lose their leaves in winter. Well, Australian plants do too, and the Red Centre in particular, they have these boom and bust periods. It rains, they grow, it dries out, they die out, or persist in not very pretty forms, I suppose. And we're going to embrace that. The idea is to embrace that, to allow the plants to dry, to allow the plants to bloom in spring.
You could imagine just the time and the effort and the research that's gone into developing every aspect of this garden to give these plants the best chance of survival. So against this, to brave this kind of weather. I mean, basically, this will be as great a triumph as our rainforest gully. I think many people when they came here years ago were absolutely shocked that we could get a rainforest to survive on Black Mountain here at the Botanic Gardens in Canberra, and we've done it again with an arid garden here. So yeah, it's very exciting, and I think people are really going to come here and they're going to experience something very special.
So I think as it comes together, and now when you look at it, it has come together. We're a bit of experimentation still with the plant species of whether many of them are going to survive and reproduce in these conditions, but that's part of the excitement of it. And as more of the plants develop, I think that's giving us a bit of excitement. I just think it's a really exciting thing to have done, and it's on a scale that is going to have an impression.
I guess we're all hoping that when people come to the Red Centre garden, they'll get a taste of that landscape. And whilst we're not trying to replicate it exactly, there's certainly the flavour of that, and that's probably fairly evident in the materials that we've used, the combinations of plants and materials together, as well as maybe seeing plants that they haven't seen before, particularly in this region, from a part of the country that's a long way away.
What I'd like to see them think about is the diversity of flora types, of landscapes that this country has to offer. That in each and every one of those ecological niches or landscapes, that there are different plants evolved for those conditions. And in the Red Centre, I suppose, one of those things is what we're trying to do is present a diversity of flora in different areas, and I hope that people come away thinking, wow, that was nice, but why was it nice? Not because of the red sand, but because that plant was pretty, or I found that interesting about that plant, or this plant has a relationship with this ant, and so on and so forth. That's the sort of thing that I'd hope they take away.